Great. Thank you so much, Alex, and to our panelists for kicking off a great discussion about cloud cybersecurity. I look forward to building off of the security angle in this fireside chat on streamlining the ATO for the cloud. And with that, I'd like to introduce our guest, Brian Conrad, who is FedRAMP's Cybersecurity Program Manager. Brian joined the team in December of 2018 after serving for over 20 years in the US Marine Corps, where he gained considerable experience in telecommunications, IT, acquisition, and project management. Now, Brian is considered a cloud computing and cybersecurity subject matter expert within the federal government. And at GSA, he leads multiple efforts associated with the Joint Authorization Board's assessment and authorization activities for cloud services across the government. Brian, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and we love getting out and talking about FedRAMP.
Yeah, of course. So off the bat, what is it about cloud-based environments and applications that make them a unique cybersecurity challenge? And what practices do you promote at your organizations to help them overcome any challenges?
Sure. So FedRAMP standardizes the security requirements for authorization and ongoing cybersecurity of cloud services. And so we provide we provide transparency into how the cloud service providers are addressing security issues. One of the biggest challenges is understanding that cloud is a shared security model. So when a cloud service offering gets a FedRAMP authorization, it's getting a stamp of approval that it meets certain requirements. And I speak mostly from the JAB side, the Joint Authorization Board side. But, when agencies use these authorized cloud services, they have responsibilities as well. And so the agencies will always need to focus on their customer responsibilities and ensuring that those are implemented in order to maintain the security of the cloud system and the data that's inside. If it's implemented properly, there's a significant level of effort the industry holds when it comes to security. And excuse me. With the security model that cloud affords, it allows industries, and what we see is agencies reusing those FedRAMP packages, the work that's been done by a cloud service to get a FedRAMP authorization, and understanding the authorizing official may have additional requirements based on their unique agency mission. So again, the shared security model and the authorizing officials looking at different requirements that may affect their particular agency or mission.
Right. And the cyber risk landscape is ever changing rather frequently too. So authorizations have to adjust accordingly. Granting an ATO at one point in time may not mean that the IT infrastructure meets those requirements indefinitely. Is there a way to automate a continuous ATO process? Or how are you and how can other agencies continuously verify cloud infrastructure and applications as the threat landscape changes?
That's a great question, and that's something that we hear quite a bit. And fortunately, FedRAMP post-authorization has a very robust continuous monitoring program. So at least, again, from my perspective in working with the cloud service providers that have JAB authorizations, there are monthly deliverables by the cloud service, and the JAB review teams actually produce one-page reports for agencies to use and to see, and so they get visibility on just how well the cloud service providers are doing in addressing vulnerabilities and taking actions to ensure that that their cloud services remain secure. And those are watched very closely by the Joint Authorization Board as well. So if we find cloud service providers that aren't necessarily keeping up with the FedRAMP requirements, they're asked to do so, and we expect them to do so as part of having a FedRAMP authorization. So cloud service providers also have to complete an annual assessment on top of the monthly vulnerability scans, as well as we expect cloud service providers to report even suspected incidents that may occur within their boundary. These are some ways that we're trying to keep track of and successfully keeping track of the cybersecurity posture of those authorized cloud services. Right.
And similarly, cloud services, as you were sort of talking about how they have to check in with their posture, cloud services are constantly updating and evolving their applications and infrastructure. So one-time ATO may not cover potential or down the road security concerns, like a software update with malware attached to it. How can FedRAMP help federal agencies mitigate this type of risk and stay on top of their threats?
Yeah, so again, this is all baked in kind of into the FedRAMP program. Is we have, after a system receives a FedRAMP authorization, we understand that it's probable that the security posture of the system could change over time due to changes in hardware, in the implementation of new software technology, or due to the discovery or provocation of exploits. Okay, so if the cloud service providers, being on top of their game, so to speak, see that these changes are coming, they can submit a significant change request and provide it to their authorizing official on the agency side or to the JAB review teams on the JAB side. And so that agency authorizing official or the JAB can evaluate the changes, the significant change, the impact to how controls are implemented in things of that nature. So the ongoing assessment is done per se through our continuous monitoring, through the annual assessments, and then also the evaluation of these significant changes that cloud service providers make frequently. And there are quite a number that are made through the course of the year. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but our JAB review teams processed quite a few in the last year.
Gotcha. What specific challenges do you see agencies encountering in understanding and embracing FedRAMP at all? Do you have any recommendations for how they can easily apply FedRAMP authorized cloud capabilities in their enterprise?
Sure. So we're constantly seeing an improvement in the agency's understanding of the program. We focus a lot on outreach to ensure that that agencies understand, the FedRAMP processes and policies and exactly what they should expect from the cloud service providers as well. And I think that's a huge thing to emphasize. So it's, we have expectations on the agency side of what they should be doing when they look at a cloud service, but we also want to make sure that the agencies understand what the cloud service providers should be providing to them. This protecting federal information is kind of a team sport, right? It's a collaborative effort between our cloud service providers, the PMO agencies, the FedRAMP PMO agencies, and our third-party assessors. Everybody has different roles in that, but it's very important to understand, from an agency's perspective, what the cloud service providers should be doing. Also, as we look ahead, one of the things that the FedRAMP PMO implemented over the summer was a voluntary program called the Agency Liaison Program. The goal is creating this program is to increase the collaboration, promote a unified understanding of FedRAMP, and institute formal feedback channels within the agencies to the PMO. So essentially, agencies can volunteer to designate a person to be their FedRAMP liaison. We kind of take the train the trainer mentality in that when we have training for the agency liaisons, there's an agency liaison listserv, and I'll get back to that in a sec. But it's a method for us to propagate information about FedRAMP or things that are happening within the PMO with regards to policy process, that kind of thing, out to the agency liaisons, and they in turn turn that out to the members of their agency. So also let's take Department of Education. If somebody in there has a question about FedRAMP, they can go to their FedRAMP agency liaison and answer. That would be sort of like the focal point of contact for that agency on all things FedRAMP. And if they can't answer it, instead of getting 1,000 calls from the Department of Education, we get one call from their agency liaison, and it makes it a little easier to get information out too. So we're also, we kind of eliminate the game of telephone. I mentioned previously the agency liaison listserv. That has been very helpful when getting information out to agencies with regards to the 4 emergency directives that we've sent responses to over the course of this year so far. And so by all measure, the feedback that we're getting about the agency liaison program has been nothing but positive.
Yeah, that sounds like a great dynamic. And it definitely also makes it sound like it's a much easier process to incorporate FedRAMP's authorization in cloud adoption across agencies. So just sort of piggybacking off of that, many people tend to be excited about adopting cloud solutions, but oftentimes they tend to think that security compliance can be a lift or something that can hold them back from adopting certain emerging technologies. So how do you hope to break this mindset? This liaison program sounds like a great starting point, but could it be changing the culture around security? Is it maybe a matter of ensuring acquisition of solutions with security baked in, or what are your thoughts?
So there is a lot of innovation coming out, and it's really cool that FedRAMP is kind of sitting in the middle between. My apologies. Sitting in between the cloud service providers and the agencies, and then so we see the cloud service providers innovating, introducing new technology, and we see on the other hand the agencies moving towards the cloud to adopt this technology. And with FedRAMP serving as a bridge, once products go through this process, FedRAMP provides the agencies. Allows the agencies to quickly onboard and use these innovative services. So once a cloud service gets a FedRAMP authorization, we have guides for reuse that are available on our website. So agencies can use those as kind of job aids to help understand what their responsibilities are in using an existing FedRAMP authorization. We also understand, that collaboration with industry is key. Okay. And one example of that, and one that I've been involved with sort of deeply is, FedRAMP is soon going to be releasing guidance on securing and scanning containers for use in the cloud. So this guidance, we originally authored it, and then we held a technical exchange meeting with cloud service providers who are actively using this technology and got their feedback. So our document, the fidelity of our document and the guidance it provides would be much better and much more relevant to the stakeholder community. In addition to that, we held a public comment period where we had the opportunity for our cloud service provider, or not just the cloud service providers, but the third-party assessors. And those are the folks that have to go out and actually assess this technology against FedRAMP standards. It was really great to get all the feedback that we got from them. We almost got too much. And the challenge with writing policy for FedRAMP is we have to understand the entire landscape. And so when I speak to cloud service providers specifically, I tell them that, our policy has to be broad. And I sort of call it guardrails on a road, akin to guardrails on a road. We want to keep everybody within the guardrails, but we understand that there's enough difference between technology implementation and, the size of business in the service model, that we can't expect everybody to go up and down the center lane. So we have to intentionally keep our policy and our guidance and requirements broad enough to fit all of the, basically anybody from industry who wants to come into FedRAMP inside.
Right. And I also just wanted to touch upon one of the big security matters of the year, and that's the mass move to telework. It's pushed agencies both to rely heavily on cloud-based capabilities, but it's also brought a bunch of new cybersecurity challenges. So beyond the usual obstacles you face in helping organizations secure their cloud environments, what have the conditions brought by telework done to change your cybersecurity challenges for your organization and the agencies you serve?
So you hit it right on the head, Melissa. The ability to work remotely and virtually in a secure environment is more important than ever. And where, that's where these authorized cloud services, we saw a sudden shift to go to cloud-based products and services. And that sudden growth in virtual work emphasized the value of cloud offerings, but also the importance of secure cloud offerings. And so we keep track of the number of authorized cloud services that are reused across the government. And, as you can imagine, this year that number skyrocketed. Again, I don't have the specific numbers off the top of my head, but for obvious reasons, we saw the numbers of reuses skyrocket. And so through FedRAMP, we enable the federal government to accelerate the adoption of cloud computing by creating those transparent security standards. So when somebody gets a FedRAMP package, gets access to a FedRAMP package, they can see exactly what that cloud service is doing. And if that cloud service has been authorized for a while, there's a way, agencies can look at the status and see how that cloud service has been performing, in their continuous monitoring and addressing vulnerabilities and such.
Excellent. So I think we can move on to a couple audience questions that are coming in. And the first one is, how do methodologies like Devsecops impact how agencies can achieve FedRAMP compliance and support cloud strategies?
So that is something that, again, we deal mostly in authorizing commercial cloud service offerings. And as we see technology start to mature, we reach out to cloud services that are more skilled in that area, and also, be able to tap into that brain power to help us formulate policy. Again, I'll walk back to the example of the container security document. That was the initial draft was written by the cloud service, by the PMO, excuse me. But the success story in that is reaching out and collaborating with industry to understand best practices and see where we can formulate our policy to support the implementation of emerging technologies.
Great. And the next audience question is, how have you seen agencies use and reuse ATO since COVID-19 started? And has FedRAMP compliance held up?
Yeah, like I mentioned, the number of reuses we've seen over the year, especially started spiking around the March-April timeframe, as you can imagine. We've also, in the past 2 years, doubled the number of authorized products we have in our catalog. So in the first 6 years of FedRAMP, we got 100 authorized products, and in the past 2 years, we added another 100. And so that gives a very broad selection of all different service models available to agencies who may need to use that. Again, being cognizant of the need for that, we published an agency reuse guide that's available on our website. And of course, if there are any lingering questions or anything like that, folks can always reach out to info@fedramp.gov. And we're really responsive, and we'll make sure we get your question answered.
Right. And I just have one last question as we're running up on time. And that is, how can FedRAMP and the CDM program work together to maximize security for federal agencies that are moving to the cloud? Can you briefly discuss the ways in which these two programs complement each other?
I'm not very steeped in CDM. That's something I'm learning more and more about. But we have a professional on our staff who is looking at all things automation. And, that's one of the things that we're trying to do is seeing where we can help provide visibility to agencies in a more broader sense on how the status of cloud service providers.
Great. Thank you for your insights, Brian. It's been a fantastic conversation, and thank you for all the work you do at FedRAMP.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Great. I'll now pass the baton over to Jeff Gerber, GovernmentCIO's Senior Portfolio Director, as he kicks off our last panel, What Makes a Good Multi-Cloud Environment?